Another concept that we talked about, and it may not work with wine, because I know there are state laws, governing how wine is vended and so forth. But we thought an event that would get people in each store. So essentially, we were saying wine and cheese, but it may be just some beverage and hors d'oeuvres are provided, the event's promoted, and those folks, the participants would be the retailers, not the restaurants. And so the stops along the way would get folks, that are participating in the event walking Main Street into each shop. And then the owner would have an opportunity to have an interaction with the person in there, tell them specials, what they've got that person may not be aware of, and hopefully it would lead to some sales. That was a concept. One, and I mean, this isn't innovative, and I think it's been tried here before, but could we look at doing I don't think a scavenger hunt would be a good term for it, but where all the participants in the event, retailers, and I'm not sure exactly how you would do it with the restaurants, essentially sign a card. And you've got to hit every one of those stops. You've got to interact with the owner, assuming that the owner is the one that's signing the card. Before you get it signed, it goes into a box for a drawing, and you win. It could be anything. It could be a trip. It could be iPads, and maybe there are 5 people that are drawn that win iPads. And just look at that as a promotional expense. That's an event concept. We talked a little bit about the Taste of Newberry, which is a great event. We could look at possibly making that quarterly. The one in the fall, for instance, if it worked out, could be sort of a German thing.
Yeah, let me just comment on that. We have been doing that. That's been an Opera House event, and it's wonderful that the city is taking it over.
But making that possibly a quarterly event. I think it at least in my opinion, it's popular enough to where if it was marketed well and it was done on a quarterly basis, it could still be successful. And the thing about the dine around is you could have the people, and hopefully we'll have a lot of locals that'll be interested in that. You can have a different starting point every time you do it. So that could be, that's not just a one-time-a-year type event, because there's if you started at a different restaurant, it would be a totally different experience when you went around. So, we could make that possibly quarterly. But those were just some of the concepts that we had.
How about a chocolate walk?
A chocolate walk?
Chocolate walk.
I love it.
That would, you could include everybody in that.
Sure, yeah. And I think, with 10 and then adding 10, you've got 20 events. And I think that's it's not a start because we've already started. We've got 10 downtown, but I think that's another, sort of, kickstart to get up to 20 events. And then we'll evaluate, how capable are we? On paper, it looks like we can handle it. If we can handle more, we can look at adding more events. But making sure, though, that the quality is really good. So they're not a one and done or, 2 times and the event folds. We want to make sure it's successful. But those were some ideas we had on the events. On the project side, and this started back in February with the budget process. And I asked City Council to consider appropriating some money for physical improvements on Main Street. Because, one of the things that there's no question that the city's responsible for downtown is the physical environment on Main Street and the side streets. And we're at a point now where, at least on Main Street, because we did some work with the parking lots and side streets, those improvements are now almost 15 years old. They were done about, a year or so after the Opera House opened. And they're showing wear. So council, as part of the budget, appropriated $586,000 in change. And at least the initial scope that I liked conceptually and wanted to, first of all, get DOT's feedback on, because it's their right of way. Main Street is not the sidewalk, the street. That is not the property of the city. Was the concept of planting trees along Main Street, investing in benches, other street furniture as well, trash receptacles, bike racks. I really like the idea of the city buying, and I don't know if we can get 10 different styles, but say 10 different styles of flower pots or planters that would go under windows, that would go into the recessed entries to the businesses, that would look different. The city would plant them, ideally, if the merchants could assist by watering them, it would save us the money of sending a trailer down with a lawn that would water the flowers. But it would create this look that didn't look artificial. If you got one or two styles of planters, it looks like part of a streetscape project. And the idea would be that it wouldn't look like that.
I have a question. You say that the city council budgeted $586,000. Was there also a grant involved for the trees?
No.
No, it was just the money appropriate that they designated.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. If I can jump in for 1 second. You know me, I can't keep my mouth shut for long. I'll try to make it brief. I love the idea. We need to improve the downtown, and sprucing it up is awesome, but I almost wish we would broaden the scope a little bit. What if we use the money to make Main Street one way? One way, and then we allow for some parallel park or some angled parking on the side. So we only have, it slows everybody down, which is the main thing. You want traffic going past your store, but you want it slow enough so they can actually see what's going on. So if you're doing all the beautifications anyway, you want to make it, that's rule number one, you got to make it beautiful. You need to make it sort of pedestrian friendly and enchanting, inviting for them to come in. The flower pots are a great idea. That would help solve the tree problem, because one of the problems with the trees is there's nowhere to put them. It's either going to hide the stores or it's going to, but if we make it one lane, then we can make it beautiful. It can be a nice entrance into the downtown, look very inviting. Okay. And I realize that's kind of a big idea, but we need to make the downtown look beautiful. It needs to look inviting for the people so that they won't just keep driving through. Let's slow them down and make them want to stay, want to get out, walk, visit the shop, see what's going on.
You got to be so practical though with it. How do you get people out? I mean, do you send them down Harrington? Do you send them down Johnstone?
Well, yeah, I think we're in a unique, wonderful situation because they've already done all the things to Nance Street. Nance is ridiculously huge, bigger than we're ever going to need. But we do have side streets that'll work really well.
The buses. I mean,
I thought about, the first thing I thought about, of course, being in the business is, all right, we need to allow for the trucks, but they don't let the trucks go down Main Street anyway. So buses can always, they can take a little bypass and go with the, we've got Nance right there. We've got Nance, we've got streets behind the Opera House, we've got Johnstone is a big street. There's, where is it? I get my Caldwells and my Calhouns mixed up. It's a nice big turnaround area there.
It's an interesting thought. What I don't want to create, though, is the same idea that Walmart has, where you can't get back to town. What bugs me is when you drive out of Walmart by the gas station, there is no way to turn into town. And I think that is something that I would love to see change.
Well, don't we have that? Because once you hit the end of Main Street, you've got a red light and you've got Nance. And that'll take you either to Johnstone, which is a huge street that goes back, or the other way. As long as it's clearly marked, when they're coming down and they're slowed down, and it's clearly marked that there's parking here, parking there. There's parking almost behind every single building, which is awesome. We're in such a unique position here. But we do have larger side streets, or as long as they're clearly marked that this is how you get back.
To I-26.
Yeah.
Well, in the early 70s, and I know about this because my aunt had a business here, they tried to do that. And the highway department said, absolute no way.
Well,
Don't even consider it.
And that was going to be my response.
Highway department?
We mentioned it to DOT, and their reaction to the
It
one-way.
was to the highway department. It was to the highway department.
The state DOT, and their reaction was not good, but let us revisit that with them, because, I mean, we threw a lot of ideas at them, and, I don't know that was fully evaluated. Would they sign off on the one-way? Now, I tell you, they'd love to give the street to the city, but there's some subsurface issues with Main Street that I would be really reluctant the city taking on, because then the money that we can spend in the future on the streetscape and downtown may get diverted to stormwater and things that currently the highway department's responsible for. So, I mean, you noticed how Main Street almost needs to be resurfaced every 5 years. It's the base that's the problem. But yeah, their initial reaction to one-way was not good. But let's revisit that with them and just get a real clear answer from them on it.